Lachlan's up first. He says, hey, Frankie Finn, I would love to hear how you go about running Facebook ads. I would love to hear the type of offer you use. Do you run a first date offer? What creative do you use? And some of the KPIs to expect. Would love to hear more. George says, actually, this was my comment. I'm just reading you guys my comment and then George's reply. So my comment was, I see stuff in groups like I just got an SEO client for SEO. Now, how do I do SEO? I mean, we all start somewhere, but you should probably have a basic idea of how to do it before. And George says, I struggle with this because of authenticity. I guess you could call it imposter syndrome, whereas these guys actually do the selling easy but can't do the actual fulfillment, yet they seem to progress on the monetary way quicker, which is a tad annoying. Helena says, I'm new to what appears to be a very active group. What is the best information to get started with targeted outreach? I bought the Kindle title recently. What else is handy and practical for a newbie interested in applying the technique? Thanks in advance. What is up, everybody? I am in Cancun today, which is on the other side of Mexico. Flew over for a conference put on by some friends, JC and Karen Height. It's called the Commitment Summit. We're having a good time over here. And as you can tell, I'm doing this probably at a weird time compared to when I normally do it, but I'm excited to see you all from this new location. Things are going well over here. And by the way, we're thinking of putting on some events specifically in Colorado. If you guys would be interested in that, you should let me know. But in the meantime, I would love to hear from you guys. And I just sent an email about this to those of you guys who are on my email list. Challenges you're dealing with, what you've tried. I'm putting together some like tools and resources that I hope will make your life easier, faster, better with less mistakes. So I'd love to hear from you guys just what you're dealing with, whatever that is. Chances are, although your problem may be unique to your friends and family who don't understand what you do, to those of us who are in this world, it is probably not actually that unique. And so if I got something that I can help you with, chances are we may have a tool or a resource or something like that. I will just send over what I got that hopefully can help you. With whatever you got going on. I'm not a miracle worker. Cole, our man Cole says ladder match for sure. I've already threatened at least one person with a Macho Man elbow drop. They deserved it already, but they're going to get it. Woo, yeah. Elizabeth, will you marry me? Yeah. Anyway, let's get into the good stuff. I don't have a long build up for you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings you a weekly Q&A. Ba-dum-bum-bum-ba-dum. The gun show is real. Ilk addressed me, so I look semi-respectable instead of my usual kid-stained wolf shirt. I got no kids with me for a couple days. I miss them already, but life is good. Let's get into it. Lachlan's up first. He says, hey, Frankie Finn, I would love to hear how you go about running Facebook ads. I would love to hear the type of offer you use. Do you run a first date offer? What creative do you use? And some of the KPIs to expect. Would love to hear more. All right, my dude. This is a loaded question because for a lot of years, Facebook ads was our primary driver of new business. And I have tried a lot of shit on there. And Facebook has banned my account now 6 times. 6 times. I've been through 6 different accounts. So we don't run a ton of Facebook ads right now just because I'm reluctant to put all the eggs in the Facebook basket. Considering that, they can just shut you down at any given moment, which has kind of been my experience. But having said that, it's still a really useful tool and I still love it and I still use it in certain ways. So I'll tell you, what has been the biggest influence on Facebook ads and making this work, and then I'll kind of go into the details of the question. But for years and years and years and years and years, I tried what everybody said you had to do, which is essentially test everything. Test. And what that left me with was thousands of split tests that were all kind of mediocre and didn't work very well, I might add. I mean, we had some winners in there too, don't get me wrong. But it was mostly mediocre times in the Frankie Finn Facebook ad world. And eventually I came across a guy. I never actually bought his stuff either, but it was called Brad's Ads. And he talked about a less but better approach to Facebook ads. And instead of split testing 80,000 things, he focused all his energy on coming up with one really great ad, one really great hook. So I'll tell you how we use Facebook ads today, and I'm going to give you some of the more detailed strategy. So to answer your direct question, single creatives, which is what most people think the question actually means. So it really depends. If you have an offer that is brand new and nobody has tried it, I treat that differently than if you have an offer that you've sold before and you got case studies and you got proof and all those sort of elements. By the way, this is a little conference badge hanging around my neck in case you guys were wondering. So anyways, if you try to make the Facebook ad machine work and you got a brand new offer, then what I do is essentially what you're describing as a first date is I want to take the risk out of working with me. And all I really do is I create an ad that is a summary of a first date offer and see if I can get people to say, I'm interested. Because I know that the genesis of all high ticket sales is curiosity. And if people will not say, I'm interested, motherfuckers will not buy that later. So when you got like a newish offer, that's my first go-to place. Let's just test little hand raisers. And as a creative function, I usually invest like $50 to $100 on a test. And you'll know in $50 to $100, if people don't raise their hand and say, I'm curious, tell me more, they ain't going to buy it later either. The flip side of that is if you do get, hey, 10 people say, like, tell me more about that, then you should probably build out a funnel and all those pieces around it and invest more money into that. But it allows me to like never lose more than, like going out for dinner. I live in Mexico, so maybe you guys can't go for $50 for dinner where you're at these days, inflation. But we can still over here. So anyways, like $50 as a test is enough to know. Now, if you've got an offer that's working, then I hammer them with proof, like case studies, testimonials, all those kind of things if you got them, and just beat people over the head. That sounds like really aggressive, but it's not as aggressive as I'm making it sound. So that is as far as creatives. It's really what I found to work is one or the other. Now, when it comes to less but better in Facebook ads, I've tested a lot of shit, and I find that too many people get caught up in the minutia of Facebook. Hey, only scale your winners by 20%, only duplicate this, don't have too much text, make sure to do this and not do that. And I'm not saying everything matters in an ad, but I found Facebook ads is 4 things to me, like the 4 things that matter the most. Who do you target? What do you offer them? How do you show that in a picture or a video? In other words, the visual component of that, and then the copy you use to dress that up. And I'll tell you, you write better copy if you focus more on the offers. So what I found is after testing all kinds of images, like we ran so many different ads to lawyers, especially like, remember we had like dogs and cats holding briefcases, shit like that. But I'll tell you what worked the best is just a demonstration of the result you get or a demonstration of the problem you solve. And I did a whole training on our YouTube channel called Dramatic Demonstrations, but that is the number one thing that works as an image. So if you combine that with target the buyers, offer them something that's easy to say yes to, and then use a dramatic demonstration to show that it's true, a proof element, if you will, you'll do far better than the way most people approach Facebook ads following all the conventional wisdom. Now, having said that, I wanted to talk to you guys about 2 different things that affect ads that nobody really talks about. One is, do you have a brand? In other words, is there repetition within your marketplace? So for us, what that meant is after 6 months of running ads to the same attorneys, to the same audience, over and over and over again, our shit just flat out worked better. And I started to think, I got high on my own supply, thinking like, oh, you're just so smart with ads and you're all your shit. But the truth is, the more and more, like, yeah, we did get better at understanding our audience's pain points and speaking their language and things like that. But I'll tell you, the thing that actually affects it the most is like when people see you for 6 months continuously in their news feed, and they've seen dozens and dozens and dozens of your ads, that affects them. There is a cumulative effect of the repetition. And so everybody, I see a lot of times when people are trying Facebook ads, they're trying to nail it in a single ad, and I'm not saying that can't be done, but it's usually more about the repetition of seeing you in their newsfeed. So I talked about this the other day, the difference between campaigns and one-offs. Like literally 5 ads or 10 ads directed at the same audience will work better than a single ad by itself. Now, the other thing too is the same thing is true after the click. Is there follow-up? Is there retargeting? Do you put them on an email list? Is there a drip sequence? So, like, the truth is that when we got really, really good at Facebook ads, we had like 10 different creatives we were running to the audience, all around the same kind of idea simultaneously, that got them to join an email list, and then they got like 20, 30 emails that indoctrinated them. And all of those things drove to, back in those days, to book a call. So when like we were at the peak of like spending a lot of money on Facebook ads, and there was a webinar in the middle of that, and there was like testimonials and things like that, that was our complete system. It's like 5 or 10 creatives that all direct to like sign up for this webinar, and then have a follow-up sequence with testimonials, additional content, things like that. If you do that, you're going to find it works better. Abdul Rahman Muhammad, what's up, my man? Says, please review this offer to attract my first client for life insurance agent. Don't pay any money until you get your first 5, sorry, it just scrolled on me. When your first 5 qualified leads confirmed by you within 1 week, just pay $10 as a yes, I'm interested. It's 100% refundable if we cannot generate leads for you. All you have to do is fill out a short form about your ideal target client area and other preferences like homeowners, specific gender, age, etc. So no long calls or Zoom meetings, only if you request it. What's up, John? So Abdul Rahman, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. So one of the things with running ads, running offers is that when Alex Hormozi came out with $100 million offers, a lot of people took that to mean that a strong offer was a strong guarantee. And I tend to think of an offer as many times the biggest component. The guarantee is like 5-10% of it. I'm not saying it doesn't matter. Every little thing matters. But it's not the big part of the offer. The biggest part of the offer is the actual outcome that you create. And what I would suggest to you, if you really, really want to dial that offer in, instead of making it less about the guarantee, focus on the specifics. And in your case, you're kind of hinting at it at the very end when you say, ideal client target area preferences like homeowners, specific genders. Those are all the details that actually matter in your case to an insurance agent. Like, for example, I don't know this, but like, say for example, they wanted to sell life insurance policies to people over 55. Well, you're going to have a lot more success if you say to them, I can help you get life insurance policies to people over 55 than you will with exotic guarantees, because they inherently want life insurance policies with people over 55. So if you're not really sure, this is usually my go-to move, is I join communities where those people already are, and I ask the question, like, which kind of clients do you wish you had more of? And they'll answer that question. They'll tell you the kind of people they most desire, and dialing those specifics in will make your offer work better. I'm not saying the over-the-top guarantee is necessarily a bad thing, but it's almost like your offer it's more just a guarantee than anything. They're not after leads. Like, people think like leads. Leads means different things to different people. Like, for example, we had a guy join our mastermind who's, by the way, crushing it. But one of the things that he came in with, his promise was to personal injury lawyers, I'll get you qualified leads. Now that basically means, just so you guys know, dick fuck all to a personal injury lawyer. Or anybody in any market, by the way. Like, it's not unique to attorneys, right? If you say, I'm going to get you qualified leads. And I asked him the question, well, what makes them qualified? In other words, what are the meaningful specifics? And in this particular industry, he said, well, they don't already have an attorney. They have insurance. They are not at fault for the accident, and there are injuries. And I said, instead of saying qualified leads as this generic thing, say that. Say, I can get you leads that have not yet hired an attorney, or within the statute of limitations, actually have accident damages and are not at fault. Right? Those are the meaningful specifics. So if you really want to tighten that offer, it's a few meaningful specifics. And this is the thing. The meaningful specifics cannot come from you, ever. They have to come from the people in your marketplace. So I only know 2 ways to do that. One is if you got clients, ask them. 2 is if you don't, join communities where those people hang out and ask them in communities. Say, hey, like, I'm trying, like, which kind of leads are most desirable to you? They'll answer the question, by the way, in these kind of free communities, and that'll help you get on target, or at least hopefully so. So anyways, I hope that's helpful, my dude. George says, or actually this was my comment. I'm just reading you guys my comment and then George's reply. So my comment was, I see stuff in groups like I just got an SEO client for SEO. Now, how do I do SEO? I mean, we all start somewhere, but you should probably have a basic idea of how to do it before. And George says, I struggle with this because of authenticity. I guess you could call it imposter syndrome, whereas these guys actually do the selling easy but can't do the actual fulfillment, yet they seem to progress on the monetary way quicker, which is a tad annoying. I would say, firstly, that is not always as true as it seems, George, in the sense that I've seen what I call the 6-month hero run. I've seen agencies, by the way, a lot of this goes on behind the scenes that nobody like talks about, but I've seen agencies that make a bunch of money really fast because they figure out some ad or hook, and then 6 months later, because they have zero fulfillment, as you described, everybody drops off, and they can show off a 2 Comma Club award winner. But really, like, if in 6 months you're back where you started, what did you really fucking build? In my mind, nothing, right? Like, you had a 6-month hero run. Like, that's cool. That's better than not having a 6-month hero run. But, like, you know, if you get called up to the big leagues, you want to stay in the big leagues and have a long and fruitful and productive career. So that's the first thing, is don't be confused. Like, we have people in our mastermind, for example, that are just steady plodding along, adding, 1 to 5 people a month, and they will come out further ahead by fulfilling on that than people who ramp up monetarily quickly. So I just wanted to add that little asterisk, because it is not always as it seems in the internet marketing world. But deeper than that, let's talk the imposter syndrome, because this is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. And just so you guys know, okay, first I should tell you 2 things. One is that this never goes away. It just gets different at different levels of the game. And 2 is that, we'll come back to 2 in a minute. Let's talk 1, okay? So this is an ongoing thing, like the imposter syndrome of what you're talking about, where basically you feel like, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I can fulfill on that. And a lot of this, by the way, even as you have success, even as you help clients, you'll still struggle with this. Like, for example, in the agency space, like, being real with you guys, I have friends who've built $50 to $100 million agencies. I built some pretty cool agencies. I got a pretty cool life. I've traveled the whole world, but I ain't come anywhere close to 100 million. Just like being real with you guys, like that ain't my biz model. I'm not the $100 million agency guy. So there's a part of me every now and then I think, who the fuck am I to teach any of this stuff when I haven't been anywhere close to these guys? They know 1,000 times more about hiring account managers and building teams and leadership than I ever would. They should be the ones giving this lesson. They should be the ones teaching this. And so I share that with you guys because new levels mean new devils. And so the goal is not to overcome permanently imposter syndrome. It's to continue on despite the fact that it exists, and to realize that ultimately people need your help. And as long as you can actually lead them better off, then you owe it to the world to actually sell your shit, even if you don't feel fully comfortable with it. Now, the second thing I wanted to say is there is I don't even know how to describe it, but I call them the bro marketers, a subset in our space where they're very good at selling and convincing and zero fulfillment, as you described, and kind of do a lot of injustice to our space, to people like you that actually know how to do SEO, for example. But here's the deal with the bro marketers who are really good at selling it but not actually fulfilling on it, is what you're experiencing is really just a side effect of what I would call having a conscience, actually giving a fuck, actually wanting to do right by people. And I cannot express this enough, that people who actually have that conscience and see it as a quote-unquote bad thing almost always end up further ahead when you stretch it out over 5 years, over 10 years, over 20 years, because they don't make promises so lightly, knowing that they actually have to keep their promises, right? And so they're more reluctant to make these over, a lot of times you see this in the booked appointment bros. I have no doubt a lot of booked appointment pros probably sold a lot of booked appointments, but now it's at the point where nobody wants to buy that shit. Everybody's tired of it. The people who bought it are all burned out. It didn't work for them, for example. 5 years, 10 years from now, they're going to have a really hard time selling that fucking booked appointment offer, as were you, because you're more likely to actually make a promise you can keep, end up further ahead. So I think actually having a conscience and sometimes doubting whether you can actually make good on your promises is a good thing, and you're supposed to have that. You're supposed to give a shit. You're supposed to, when you make a promise to a client, actually want to keep it. Crazy idea in internet marketing. It's not all just about making promises. 50% is actually fulfilling on those promises if you want to be around in 5 or 10 years. So a lot of the people you're talking about, they're not playing the same game as you. They're not planning on still doing this in 5 years, in 10 years. So it's a different game. So I share that with you because it's okay to have a conscience. It's a good thing. Embrace it. And actually, one of the things that helps is when it comes to making promises. Somebody said this the other day. I think it was Neil Rafferty, but maybe I'm misquoting here. But the idea is that when you're making promises, when you make those promises more smaller but meaningful, like, hey, I think I could get you one to somebody by Friday, what happens is you don't set these sky high expectations that can't be fulfilled. The opposite is, like, then when you get them 3, they're like, holy shit, we got 3. And they're blown away and they want more. And so there's an art to creating promises that you can actually fulfill on. And it's not just about making promises. Alex Hormozi sold a book about making promises, but like, I don't think $100 million fulfillment would have sold as well. But the truth is, $100 million offers don't work without $100 million fulfillment. And, like, they go hand in hand. So I share that with you because I hope, like, those of you guys who are out there struggling with that, hey, I should be further along than the bro marketers, you are getting further along in the direction that really matters. Because, like, creating a business that, like, crushes it for a little while and then burns your reputation to the ground in 6 months is not anything, really. Like, I know people who got 2 Comedy Club Award winners and, like, they don't have dick fuck all because, like, they just burned it to the ground. So I say that to you because, like, it's not always how it seems in internet marketing. Helena says, I'm new to what appears to be a very active group. What is the best information to get started with targeted outreach? I bought the Kindle title recently. What else is handy and practical for a newbie interested in applying the technique? Thanks in advance. Okay, so outreach in its core form is like, can you message a stranger and have a fruitful and meaningful conversation? And I want to talk just a little bit of background. What I think screws people up with a couple of things, okay? One of the things that screws people up with this is, I'll tell you the biggest thing actually, is the reliance on scripts and automation and messaging. And I think, like, the goal of each message is to do the opposite, in my opinion, is to actually personalize it so much to the person you're talking to that they think, like, I have to read this message because it's written for me. And I think that's a much better place to do than, so like, right off the bat, if you're doing, like, automation and stuff, it's easy to ignore you. And that's what most people do. And you see people where they say, like, well, I need a D7 lead scraper, I need servers and bots, and you got to warm up emails. And, like, all that shit is a side effect of sending, in my opinion, like, a lot of bad messages. The second thing that I think trips people up in this game is, sorry, let me take one more swig of the old water. The second thing that trips people up in this is I don't think enough people understand this, but there's an 80-20 in whatever market you're going to. It doesn't matter whether you're doing this dentists, doctors, lawyers, butchers, e-commerce, online coaches, home services, HVAC, plumbers, whatever. Like, whatever your industry is, it's all the same, okay? But let's use the example of dentists, okay? If you could put 100 dentists in a room, only 20 of them would actually buy marketing services. 80% of them, the vast majority of them, are broke, close to it, and or just don't buy the kind of things that you do. Hey, we've grown 30 years on word of mouth. We're not trying to open multiple locations. We've grown enough. We're at capacity. Any number of reasons. And so a lot of times when people do outreach, they think step 1 is, how do I send as many messages as possible? And I think step 1 is being more sophisticated in saying, how do we identify the 20% who are the actual buyers of the things we sell? And the easiest way to tell, by the way, is if they're buying these kind of things, they're also buying from your quote-unquote competitors, right? So, like, if they're buying Google ads now, or they're investing in, like, 5 different websites, or they're paying somebody to post for them on Instagram, or they built out a YouTube channel, like, those are all good signs, right? As where if you can barely find anything. So this is counterintuitive, because what happens is, like, if you sell websites, for example, you should sell websites to somebody who already has 100 websites and not to the person who does not have a website. So almost always I see this where people go, hey, I make websites. How do I find people who don't have one? And I'll tell you, it's really the wrong question to be asking, because, like, some of my top lawyers, for example, have 100 websites. They have one for each location, one for each practice area. They have lawyer profiles. They have a Spanish version of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, if you say, hey, I can make you a German version of your site or a location specialty one, you're going to sell more websites to somebody who bought 100 websites behaviorally than somebody who in 30 years has never paid for a single website, right? And so people do this backwards. They try and sell for need, instead of selling to the person who has a proven history behavior of buying that thing. If you skip that step, it's like going to the Jewish vegetarian conference and then trying to sell pork sausages. And no matter what you do and no matter what you say, you are not going to sell pork sausages because they just don't fucking buy it. Right? So it's very, very important to get the buyers thing. So as a shortcut of this, I did a free training on our YouTube channel. It is called, you can search it as Beyond Agency Profits. Go to YouTube and go to Beyond Agency Profits, Less But Better Agency Lead Generation. Once again, Beyond Agency Profits, Less But Better Agency Lead Generation. And I show you guys how to identify the buyers and then what kind of messaging to send them. Now, I'll tell you two things that we do differently. So my basic formula of like if I'm trying to message a stranger is I send them a little bit of personalization so they know I'm talking to them. And then I do a little hand raiser, which is a summary of an offer. Like if we could do this thing for you, would you be interested in finding out more about that? And again, high-ticket sales begin with curiosity. So the other thing that trips people up is they think the goal of message number one is to get somebody to buy your shit in a single leap and bound. And that to me is like walking up to a girl on the street and saying, hey, do you want to bang? I mean, if you do that enough times, you may like get some action. But in reality, it's like that's not the goal of message number one. The goal of message number one is to start a conversation. The type of conversation that can lead where you want it to lead. So to me, step one is like just see if they're interested in the very thing that it is you do. And then the other piece that people miss is, again, campaigns. Like 5-10 messages in a row work better to one person than sending 10 messages to one person one time. So if you could only send 10 messages, by the way, ever, like if it cost you like, I don't know, $1 million to send a message and you had $10 million and you could only send 10 messages, you are far better off sending 10 messages to one person than sending one message to 10 different people one time. And especially if you've identified that that's a proven buyer in your industry. So I lay out kind of how to do that in the Less But Better Agency Lead Generation. Also give you some ideas to zig when everyone else zags and to do it differently. Having said that, there's lots of tools and resources that can help you do the outreach at scale. But first, get it working before you like try and scale it. Because I think too many people try and scale before get it working. And I think that's just backwards. Our man Basil says, hey, Frankie Finn and others, in terms of how to apply the shoe store distribution principle in the B2C world instead of B2B, as you've already laid out, what would that look like? Let's say, for example, we wanted to apply this for the benefit of a roofer or window installer so they could find distribution channels in their local service areas. I know localized YouTube ads could be one option, but how would we go about figuring that out? Or has anyone been successful with doing something like that in B2C distribution for local businesses? So I would suggest to you that this distribution principle is already true in your market. So it is not a question of how do I figure it out. It is a question of what are they doing now. So I'll give you for example, and the easiest way to like think about this, and I learned this from Jay Abraham, by the way. Jay Abraham says 3 questions he always asks when he deals with people. He says, what do they buy before? What do they buy after? And what do they buy instead of? So let's use the example because you used a roofer. Well, if somebody's getting a roof repaired, they probably own a home, right? Like you're probably talking to homeowners more than likely. And homeowners buy lots of things, right? Like lots of things. They don't buy a roof and then maintenance and costs of your home are done forever. They may like get kitchen remodeling. They may get bathrooms remodeled. They may build decks. They may get fences. They may get alarm systems. They may get insurance on their home, right? And those are just a couple of small examples. And like if we went on longer about this, I'm sure we could think of 50 or 100 more. In fact, by the way, you could probably give that to ChatGPT and just say like, hey, what else do these people buy? Like what else do homeowners buy besides, these things related to roofing? And what you'll realize is you have the same audience. A window installer is selling to the same person as a roofer. A roofer is selling to the same person as the deck person. The guy who does home insurance is selling to the same person who buys the roof. They're not different people. And so when you recognize that, you realize there's synergy in that, especially if you can create reasons for them to share. And this already happens in every industry. This is what I want to impress upon you is that your goal is to be more like a detective. So for example, when I did the 90-day challenge and I got into the water damage space, what I found out is a lot of water damage people get their business from plumbers Because what happens is when there's a leak in the house, they call the person to come fix the leak. The plumber fixes the leak, and yet the house is flooded. And he says, well, I fixed the leak. That's what I do as a plumber, but your hardwood floors are damaged. I don't do hardwood floors. Can I recommend to you a water damage restoration contractor who can fix all that for you? And he works with your insurance so that hopefully you won't have to pay for it. And so a lot of the restoration people get all their business from plumbers because plumbers see the damage first, right? So the plumbers would be an example of distribution. Now, second thing that when there's water damage, the other person they call is the insurance agent. They say, insurance agent, you got to get down here. My basement's flooded. Or the other person they call is a property manager, especially if it's like a condo complex or something like that. So a lot of these guys get all of their business already from plumbers, from property managers, and also from insurance agents, right? Like those are the three we mentioned, okay? So, and then the crazy thing is, if you ask them, what are you doing to get those people to send you business? Typically the answer is like, nothing. Like, they just send me jobs here and there. So almost always, like, if it's working doing nothing and you add a little bit of fuel doing something, then it'll go much further. So like, if I'm a roofer and I actually want to use that, maybe I create a little gift certificate off a roofing install that they can give away to the window installer, to the deck installer, to the home insurance. So like, hey, if you guys ever need a roof, like, I got you a special deal kind of thing. And what happens is, because they have the same buyer, so it's important to understand that, like, people who buy from you buy from other people. They buy things before, they buy things after, and they buy things instead of. And when you identify what those things are, then those are all the distribution opportunities you'll ever need. And you can get all the business, like there's probably already a homeowners association, right? Like if you said, hey, homeowners association, like I want to do a free presentation for like what to do if you got a leaky roof and how to know when, or how to fill out the insurance claim and all that so that you don't have to pay for it out of pocket, right? Like that's going to be valued to their people. And yet I can talk to like 200 homeowners all at once. So I share that with you because like I said, they're not just buying your shit. They're buying other people's shit too. So the sooner you identify those other things, those are always potential partnerships. And one of the questions, if you want to figure out where they're getting their business from already, go, who normally refers you? And you're looking for the kinds of people that send them business over and over. So like in the personal injury space, for example, somebody goes to a personal injury attorney. Well, one of the places they can get a lot of business from is a chiropractor, right? Because if somebody gets in a car accident, before they go see the personal injury attorney, they go, my neck hurts, and they go get medical treatment. Same thing is true because of physiotherapists, right? Like they may get treated for an accident. They also get their car repaired, so they go to the auto body shop, right? Like they do those. And so those are like three potential partners, right? Like those are things they buy before they come into the personal injury attorney. So I suggest to you, they are already doing those things. It's not your job to like try and figure out how it's your job to be a detective and figure out what's already working and then go, okay, they're almost like if the plumbers are sending them all the business accidentally, how could we make that happen on purpose? Super powerful. And I suggest if you guys want to get better at this stuff, like just listen to Jay Abraham stuff. It'll just make you smarter in general. Anyways, hope that's helpful. And last but not least, we got Basil. I'm going to get back to the conference here in a little bit. He says, I'm thinking about opening a new company. I have 2 areas of expertise. I need to choose which one. Which type of business do you think would attract more customers? Content creation agency specializes in building websites, writing articles, and designing graphics for social media branding. Outsource agency. Focus on providing $3 an hour outsource employees such as virtual assistants, appointment setter, graphic designers, not a VA agency. I'm getting full-time employees for clients and not charging per hour. Your insight would be greatly appreciated. Bart, I think there's a need for both, just so you know. Anytime like there's work to be done and people would rather pay people to do that work than do it themselves, it's not going to be a sexy business model, but it's going to be a business model that stands the test of time. Like, why do people still, after all this time, hire cleaning companies? Why do people, after all this time, still hire, like, moving companies? Because moving fucking sucks, right? Like, it's a lot of fucking work. Even if you know how to do it, it's just a lot of work. It's heavy lifting and it's grunt work. So, like, it just makes a lot of sense to hire, like, a moving company, for example, right? So I say that to you because both of those industries are viable, but what I'll tell you, what I think is the missing piece from it is and obviously, like, you know, you can dial this in further, but I would focus on not what I could do. Like, almost always when people ask this, and I get asked this in a lot of variations, they're coming from the place of, like, do you think I could make money doing this? And here's the truth: yes, but it would work so much better if you found a group of people that you would enjoy helping and serving, and then figured out what they're trying to do first. In other words, like, market needs, what problems are they actually trying to solve, and then figure out, how can I use my tool resource to solve that problem? What will happen is you'll just come up with a better thing. So say, for example, I don't know this, but, like, let's say you decide to help, I don't know, agency owners, right? And it turns out that a lot of these people struggle with selling their stuff through ads. Well, you go, hey, I know how to build funnels. And so maybe what I'll do is I'll help them build funnels and include an appointment setter who helps get people booked on their calendar, and it helps pre-sell them so they can sell more of their agency services. That's going to be valuable to a lot of people. But it doesn't start with the, hey, I wonder if I can make money selling funnels. That's backwards. It starts with who I'm going to do it for, figuring out what problems, and, like, you know, actually listening to the market, and then building something. So almost, like, for sure, if I wanted to get your thing off the ground, like, move number one would be niche down into just who I'm going to do this for, and not try and be super broad. By the way, I think it's a big mistake when people think wide. When they think, I'm going to do this for, you can widen it later, but I think in day one, get super focused. So I think an awesome example of this, by the way, Brad Ferris does this in the medical industry. So he brings pre-trained virtual assistants, and their job is to book people into your medical practice. Now, a lot of people have appointment setters, and a lot of people have VAs that do appointment setters. Very few of them do as well as Brad does with it. And it started with, firstly, thing number one is he focused on a who. In his case, med spas. Then it was like, what is the problem they struggle with? Well, they struggle with, we got somebody to fill out a form on our website, but, like, at the end of the day, that somebody's not actually coming in and booking a medical procedure. Well, he's like, if I could take that person from form fill, meaning they filled out an email form, to actually walking into your office having, like, prepaid for laser cool sculpting or whatever procedure, right? Would that be worth money to you? You know, would you be willing to pay for that? And almost always they're willing to pay for that result. And so even though it's still a VA agency, it's still all these things. And I've talked about this before, but every single agency service, everybody listening to this, your offer is essentially like a hammer. And a hammer is like, if you give your hammer to 100 different people, it's 100 different things. One person buys the hammer because, hey, it's summertime and I want to have some backyard barbecues. I want to entertain my guests outside. Another person wants to remodel their kitchen, have fancy dinner parties, and have people visit. Another person wants to build a birdhouse with their daughter and see their daughter smile like, hey, we built this together. Another person probably wants to murder their ex-wife, like, hey, like if I just whack her over the head with a big metal hammer. And so the worst thing you can do with a hammer is sell the hammer as the hammer. And so that means, like, when you go, well, we got ergonomic steel, or we got 1040 extra strong steel. It's got an ergonomic handle. It's made in the USA, so it's inferior quality. Sorry, Americans, but it's true. The worst thing you can do is sell the hammer as the hammer, because nobody cares. The best thing you can do is focus on a specific person and an outcome. So, like, for example, like, hey, this hammer will help you build a backyard deck 1,000 times faster because you don't have to put in those nails manually. Every time you want to secure something in your deck, this hammer will make it super easy, right? So you want to focus on who you're doing it for, what problems they're trying to solve, or what outcomes they're trying to create, and then catering your service to that. If you open it up as a come one, come all stop, you're going to have a really hard time, like, A, getting people into it, and B, getting them to pay for it. So, like, simple example of this, just so you guys know, I'm working on a second book. And when I got my cover designed on my first book, I knew what I wanted, by the way, but I went to Fiverr and I hired a graphic designer, and I think I paid him 10, maybe 20 bucks. And that was what he was asking. And his messaging, by the way, is generalist positioning, which says, I'm a graphic designer. Hire me for all your graphic design needs. Anything you want in Canva, any brochures, any graphics, any ads, whatever you want designed, I can make it. And so I went to the generalist and I said, I would like this book. Here's what I have in mind. what would you like for that? And he said $10. And he even sent me a copy of the book and said, I'll make it first, and if you like it, you can just pay the $10, which I liked it, and I paid the $10. But if he had started with the who, so this is a person in the exact same business that I saw, and they specialized in creating New York Times best-selling covers for New York Times best-selling authors. Again, still a graphic designer, but the who, New York Times best-selling author, the outcome, like a cover, a best-selling cover. Those two things, I'd be surprised if they're not charging $10,000 or more for the exact same thing, and it's still graphic design work. And so what happens is, when you focus on a who and a specific outcome or problem that they're trying to overcome, immediately you can do your thing as more valuable, because it's the outcome they're buying, not the fucking hammer in the middle of it, right? If I create a New York Times best-selling book, and so what if I had to pay 10 grand for the cover, as long as like that person can help me create a best-selling cover. The flip side of that is if you're the come one, come all, you're going to have a hard time selling it. So right now I say that because of the way you frame the question will lead into generalist positioning of come one, come all. We got VAs. They'll do anything for you. They will build a funnel. They will appointment set. They will do this. We will outsource. You can do anything you want. You can hire them hourly. You can hire them per project, right? That's not where you want to be. You want to be in the Brad. Hey, if you're a med spa, we'll get them from email form into like a paid patient booking and have them walk in your office. And you only pay per result. And so anyways, Cole says my internet fucks again. I'm at a hotel, man. It should be good internet, but what are you going to do? What are you going to do? So anyways, that's all I got in that rant. And looks like that's all the questions we got. I hope the internet's working again, but I never fucking know with this shit. Anyway, appreciate all you guys. Much love. I'm going to get back to the conference and send a little note to my VA who does the video editing. Shout out to Mark. We appreciate you so much and have much love for you. That's all I got for you guys this week. Much love, and may the force be with you. Happy Monday, y'all. Seriously, hugs and kisses. We're giving them out for free.
Hey guys, if you like this video, you'll also like my book on Amazon called Beyond the Agency Box, which you can also find by my name, Frankie Finn, and it's got a lot of awesome reviews. And it really just goes deeper on a lot of things we're talking about, everything you need to grow and start a lifestyle agency, from the stages you'll go through to getting clients, to how to create winning offers, to high value deliverables, to wowing clients, to building teams, to building systems, and building a boring factory that's like a 7-figure money machine for you. So if you're interested, I put links for you in the video description, as well as it'll be in the pinned top comment below, and make sure to check those out.